Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.
Hello, this is Adele Casals Rocha, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for that, Adele. Before we start the show, I've got a few call-outs for people. I've got Nigel Watson of Plymouth, Devon, UK. Paula Steen of Corrigan, Tennessee, USA, and Kathleen Williams of Rockwell, Texas, USA. And strangely enough, our guest is from Texas today. His name is Drew Hurst Beeson. He's an author, and I think he's mostly into the paranormal. I mean, this is a paranormal show, so let's hope so. Anyway, welcome to the show, Drew. Hello, Drew.
Thank you, David. I'm excited to be here.
Hello, yeah, and it's nice to speak to you at last, my friend. As you say, we've had a few words here and there over the last few months and things, but we haven't actually spoken properly together. So I'm looking forward to this one. Perhaps you'd like to introduce us to you wrote a book called Asleep in Hell. What's all that about? And also A Cloak in Brethren. A Cloak of the Brethren. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I did too. At about the same time, I've always been interested in the paranormal, all aspects. I mean, UFOs, you name it. I mean, this was way back in the day when even before the internet, where it would be just a bunch of guys drinking some beers, till 4 a.m, talking about all this kind of stuff. So I've always been interested in it, and finally got around to writing some stories that were true, that happened to me. Most of this stuff is all true, so I wanted to just get it down on paper and finally publish it. So, Asleep in Hell is a book that actually happened to me. It's actually a bed that my cousin had when we lived together while we were going to college, and the bed was literally a porthole to the afterlife. I mean, it was a really strange thing, and it was just something that I had to write about. It was just so crazy. You would sleep in that bed, and it would be like really more than lucid dreaming. It would take you into the spiritual realm, and I would be in contact with like a friend of mine, my best friend, that was killed in an automobile accident. And it was 2 years after the accident. He would come to me in these really vivid lucid dreams and talk to me like he was like stuck, like it was a purgatory type thing. And he was Roman Catholic, so they believe in that. I don't. I'm a Protestant, but nonetheless, that's where he was. And it was just so vivid and real. And he was saying things like, "Please pray for me," and I did, and it was like he was released from that, and it was just, I could tell there was something going on when I would sleep in this bed. Like when my cousin would leave for the summers, I would be like, there was almost like this tractor beam attraction to the bed, and as soon as you would lay on it, you would be in this, beyond a trance. You were in this deep, deep state of sleep that would take you into this world.
Oh, that's a different one. I've not heard a story like that before. Has he got has the bed got a particular old history or something?
Well, it belonged to my great grandfather, and he was not into the occult or anything, not that I knew of at least, but it was, it's rather old. My cousin wound up with it, and when we moved in together, he'd painted it this weird green color. It was metal. It was a metal frame bed. It was, probably from, 1920s or so. So it's pretty old. And, it all started with him having nightmares in that bed and telling me about it. And this, he's a real cool guy. He doesn't, doesn't speak a whole lot, but he's, pretty calm person. So when he tells me things like that, it kind of rang a bell, like, okay, something's going on here. And we didn't put two and two together for a while until I slept in it a couple times. I had some friends come over, a couple slept on my bed, and I wound up sleeping in his, and immediately I was in this really vivid dream state, and I kind of connected what was happening to him with the bed. So it was really crazy, but nothing nothing really crazy with the background other than being old.
Yeah. So did that lead to kind of, well, you say connections to the afterlife. So did you have any sort of out of body experiences and things from it, or is that what you would call them?
Oh, absolutely. After sleeping in the bed, I was telling you about the friend that was killed in the auto accident.
Yeah.
He told me something that, I would say, well, how do I know this is real? Because he wasn't even sure where he was, but like I said, it was like a state of purgatory in the middle. He was waiting to be, I guess to call heaven, to go to heaven, to finally pass on to his ultimate destination. And I said something like, well, how do I know this is all real? And he told me where my lost wristwatch was in the real world. Oh, and it was hidden deep in a chair I had, and it was there. So I was startled, like, I'm really talking to this guy. It's not a demon or a spirit, or it didn't seem malevolent. So it was proving to me in the waking world that there was definitely a connection happening.
Yeah, you were given evidence, basically. Yeah,
you basically given evidence, and then one time I went to sleep, and it just basically out of a experiment to see what would happen, and I was literally shown hell. I was hence the title of the book, and I was there, and it was like, the best way I can describe it is a total absence of God. I know you've probably heard that description of hell before. It's like this energy has just suddenly turned off. All hope is gone. It's just complete despair, and it's just like a flick of a switch when you are in this spiritual level. There's really no one to cry out to. You're on your own, and it's eternal. And I was just being shown this for a reason, and I would cry out like, please don't leave me here. This is a wake up call or something. And then, I could see the demons, and you could just feel that it's more about me. You weren't so scared of what was around. It was just the spiritual helplessness of it all. So and I was able to be risen out of that.
So it wasn't all flames and things like a hell like that, but it's actually like really low life forms, I suppose, in that kind of dimension. I think it's like a dimensional thing.
Absolutely, it is a dimensional thing. It is. It's more in your spirit and of another dimension. I mean, I know you read a lot of accounts of hell where people talk about feeling this physical pain, but it never ends. And I'm sure a lot of that is true. But from my experience, it was like just this desperation that you just can't describe. I mean, you almost can't find words for it. I mean, me as a writer, I can't even find the words for how it feels when you have that light turned off. Like, we do have the presence of God here on earth. We have a lot of bad things, but you can at least feel it. You still have this hope. But in this spiritual realm, it's gone. It's just like you're cut off from it, and you don't really realize. It's like someone being cut off from their oxygen. You can't breathe. You have to have that, and it was really startling. And I definitely wanted to get that story out.
Well, why would you have been shown a sample of it, I wonder?
I'm not sure. I think it was only something to do with that bed, with some form of portal. I mean, like literally a haunted object for whatever reason. I'd never heard any accounts from my great grandfather. I mean, he passed away I think when I was 5. I'm 50 now, so it was a long time ago, but I never heard any other reports other than what was happening to my cousin, and then started happening to me, and that was definitely the conduit. I've had nightmares before and some lucid dreams, but this was on a different scale, a lot more intense, and definitely something going on that was the conduit of. I mean, I could go back to my regular bed, and it would stop immediately. For him, it did. When he got rid of the bed, the nightmares stopped. Right. I mean, it was really
I was about to ask you that. Did anything happen in like motel beds or anything like that, or
No, none at all. Only this one. Only this one.
That's very strange, isn't it? That's probably one of the strangest stories I've actually heard.
Yeah, it is.
A haunted bed.
It's definitely. Yeah, it is a true story all the way. It's crazy as it is, it's totally true. And then, another thing happened in the waking world while these events were going on, when I was basically experimenting with this bed. It was just, it fascinated me as somebody into the paranormal, like what's going on with it. And I know you probably heard the term shadow people before.
Oh yeah.
I had an experience, after one night having this experience in that bed, and I was, in the waking time, I was at a mall, and there was an escalator, and I was going on riding on the escalator, and I could feel this, kind of like a child or something was running up behind me, how you just feel it without, I didn't even have time to turn around and look. And I just felt this, person or spirit just kind of walk right through me. and that's never happened again. And it was something, the energy from the bed would like you said earlier, kind of carried over into the waking world. And that's never happened to me again.
That's very strange. Huh. So, do you consider yourself psychic, or have you got any sort of psychic powers? Or I don't like to call them powers, really, but I don't really know what else to label them, really.
Not really. I never considered myself psychic at all. It was just something I was shown with that bed, and like I said, it happened to my cousin as well. And he had an out of body experience before when he was younger. And, I put that in the book because, like I said, this guy's a, pretty cool character. He's not really, one of these outlandish kind of storyteller guys. He's a pretty laid back guy. So, he did have an out of body experience when a guy from his church came by to, pray with the family. It was back in the older days where people from the church would come out and talk to you, and a guy prayed with him. I think he was like 12 years old, put his hands on him and just said a quick prayer. And he said he immediately leapt out of his body. And he was looking down on himself with the guy praying with him. And I never forgot that because it never happened to him again after that. It was a true out-of-body experience. I've never had one personally. So, maybe he had some of that connection to him as well. I thought, they could have, maybe he kind of charged this bed with that spiritual energy, if you will.
Yeah. You never had it kind of investigated by a professional or I'd say I call it professional, but like an exorcist or something.
No, we didn't. That was kind of back before the days that now you have all these advertised paranormal investigators going around now that have business cards and websites. That was definitely before those days. Or knowing how to get an exorcist. I didn't think it was, it was actually possessed. It was just this portal.
It certainly would have been interesting, wouldn't it, to have some sort of investigation carried out onto it.
Absolutely.
So was it actually destroyed after the bed, or did it go on to somebody else?
I think he sold it or something. He moved to Los Angeles. We were in Houston at the time, and he moved to Los Angeles, and I think I believe he might have sold it or just put it out for the trash. I'm not sure which one, but I hope somebody didn't get it.
Well, yeah,
it was destroyed. I really don't know.
That's what I was just thinking. This history could be carrying on, couldn't it? With somebody else who's having weird things
absolutely,
going on.
They could. It was definitely charged.
But that is really interesting. Well, you mentioned like UFOs. I know Texas is a very vast area in the States. It's pretty prone to a lot of UFO activity. Have you ever seen anything like that yourself?
Absolutely, I have. Had one really intense sighting, and what was interesting is kind of what came after, but starting over, I had a sighting. It was 1991. I graduated high school in 88, so it was during the college years, and I was with my girlfriend at the time and a good friend of mine, and it was just the three of us. And this was in just towards the west of Houston. Obviously, this is a fourth largest city in America, probably third now. It's pretty dense, but even back then it was the fourth, so it was a big city. And we weren't out in the rural countryside at all. We were kind of in a pretty urban area, so you wouldn't expect us at all. And we pulled in his car. He was driving. I was sitting next to my friend. My girlfriend was in the back, and we pulled into the little apartment where he lived. And my friend looked up and he said, "Look, there's a shooting star." And I said, "No, you can't see any shooting stars right now. The clouds are too low." I mean, it was real low clouds that night, and there was not even a break in them. It wasn't raining, but it was just full of cloud cover. I said, "You can't see stars right now, especially, this close in the city. There's too much light." He goes, "No, right there, shooting star." And then you could see these two balls of light shooting out of the clouds, and they were low, and they were chasing each other. And then a third ball of light came out, and they're chasing each other. And he goes, and then he says, "Oh my God, his curse word. It's a UFO." And I was like, wow, couldn't believe it. We all got out of the car and we just started watching this event. And, it made no noise whatsoever. And then you could see this giant triangle. And at that point, my friend's mother came out and his brother, and they were catching, the last half of this. So there was 5 of us now seeing the same thing. And there was a giant triangle. You hear a lot about these triangle shaped crafts. And you could tell it was just sitting in the cloud bank, and it was just illuminated really huge. It was just sitting there. And then the balls of light came down a little lower. All 3 of the balls of light came together to make one. It shot back up into this triangle. And it was massive. It was really big. And, we all couldn't believe it, just blown away. I mean, we can't believe we actually saw a UFO, especially here in, near a populated city. and never heard anyone else report it.
That's
Nothing.
Weird,
I mean,
nobody else saw it.
yeah. And the strangest thing about it, David, is when I got home, I was still living with my parents at the time. I think I was visiting from another college I was going to at the time, over the weekend, and came home, and it was just, still going over my thoughts. So I was just trying to wind down, turned on the TV, and I think it was, kind of the earlier days of cable TV, probably had like, 120, 130 channels. And every channel I went to, I would click on was something UFO related. I mean, there was like 8 in a row. It'd be like My Favorite Martian or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I was like, it struck me. They were like, as crazy as it is, like, I'm sending you a message. We know you saw it, and we're just showing you we're in control. I mean, I can't tell you the odds of like 8 in a row on TV channels being UFO related, but that was what stuck out of my mind more than even seeing the UFO.
Indeed, yeah, it does seem a bit strange. I mean, what you described there about the triangular object with the 3 smaller objects around it, that's I've heard that story so many times. Similar types of things, and they usually come in 3s, don't they? The smaller objects that go around.
Yeah, it seems like they
object.
do. Yeah, I've heard that before, but yeah, you think that. A lot of these things happen in the country or whatever. This was in a pretty, well-populated area. I mean, and it was, whatever it was, it was massive. I mean, I know you hear a lot about the triangle crafts. And, I'm into Roswell quite a bit. And I truly believe that what happened at Roswell was an alien craft. There's just no doubt about it. What influenced me to get into the paranormal a lot was I'm sure you've heard of the TV show over here in the States called Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes, yeah.
Which was one of the first talked about all this stuff, which really got my interest peaked. And, I got to meet the producer of that particular episode of the Roswell that they did. It was a friend of my cousin's out in Los Angeles named Sam Lucchese, and he was, heavily involved in putting the Roswell show together for Unsolved. And I got to, meet him and talk to him. Of course, I knew what he did for a living. And I said, what was that show like? And he said, I never believed in UFOs. And the fact, if somebody brought it up, I would kind of laugh at them like they're just insane. He goes, but when I did the Roswell show and I talked to all those people, like, Jesse Marcel Jr., whose father was the military person when he brought home the pieces of the wreckage, he said, I met him and I met Mac Brazel's neighbor. He goes, these people are telling the truth. He goes, I fully believe, as the biggest skeptic you would have ever met before that show, that what happened there did happen. And it was just blown away hearing that from a guy that got to talk to like Marcel. And so it left a lasting impression on me. I was a believer since then. Yeah.
I mean, I believe it. I definitely do. Because I think a lot of reverse engineering has gone into the manufacturing processes now. It's like,
oh, absolutely.
When Lazar came along, it sort of came out of nowhere, didn't it? As if it was like, it's just been produced. But,
and the microchip.
And the microchip and fiber optics and all sorts of things like that. I think
it just exploded.
Yeah.
It exploded literally afafter that. I mean, in the weather balloon, really. I mean, I cannot believe anyone that could look at this evidence and not believe that's good. I mean, I love to bring up Marcel Jr. because he's so credible. He's a flight surgeon. This guy, a pretty accomplished guy. So was his father, pretty high up in the military.
Oh, yeah.
He vividly remembers these objects laying on the kitchen table. Yeah. I mean, the metal that you could bend that would put itself back and the little I-beam that had the hieroglyphics on it. This guy's not making that up. He's a highly accomplished person. He's never changed his story once. He's the best witness to what happened, I think. And collectively all the witnesses there, it definitely happened. I can't see how anyone could deny it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a high-ranking, military official, wasn't he? On an atomic base in one of the hottest spots.
Yeah, his father was a major.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's, they wouldn't make that sort of thing up, would they?
They would not, because it was especially like that.
They would just destroy their careers.
It would destroy their career. Even Junior, who was young at the time. I think he was 11 or 12, but vividly remembers this stuff being. His father came home late at night. I think it was 3 a.m, and he laid out all these objects on the table from the crash site. Metal, the little I-beam was most notably that was laying on the table that had the hieroglyphics written on it. I think they said had a purple hue to it. It looked sort of like aluminum, but it wasn't. It was something definitely out of this world. And he vividly remembers, never changed his story. Highly accomplished guy. Everybody remembers Mac Brazel, the ranch hand that saw it. I mean, they destroyed him by threatening him. I mean, this guy he was broken. Everyone that knew him said he was just broken after that. He was threatened to the point of, probably suicide. I mean, they were They were going to shut down anyone talking about it.
Well, the funny thing is, they actually took him onto the base for several days, didn't they? And apparently,
absolutely.
And now
yes,
they
confined him.
You say they had absolutely no right to do that at all. Because
no rights whatsoever.
Being a civilian.
No rights at all to do it. Took a civilian in without a lawyer and just basically, told him if this ever gets out, you're a dead man.
Mm. And also,
I did hear a simple farmer.
I did hear that when he left the base, he actually left the state, or he actually left the area as well, and he had a brand new car and everything like that. So do you think he was paid off?
I never heard that. Heard that. I'll have to look into that. I never heard that. I knew he was pretty broke and pretty simple man, but
yeah, at the time. But that's what I heard. I heard he disappeared away from the area and in a brand new pickup truck and all sorts of things, and he wasn't heard from again because you don't sort of.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, it's worth. I mean, I don't know if you know in Texas, in San Antonio, William Poulin. He has a good.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. Oh, you should have a talk with him because he's actually very much into the Roswell thing and with Don Schmidt. You've probably heard of Don Schmidt as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have his book.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Don, I believe, I'm not sure if he lives in Roswell, but they have a big connection in Roswell, and you should get together with them and, have a talk, because,
without a doubt.
I say William's been on this show, and he's very, very knowledgeable.
I'll look into that part about Roswell. The neighbor who we went to visit, his closest neighbor, which, it was all big sites back there, but I can't remember her name right off the bat, but, he went over to their house and said, hey, this thing's crashed over there. And, and they were like, he told them about it and they were kind of interested, but they were, for whatever reason, like, they weren't really sure. So they didn't go see it. And they were interviewed later on that Unsolved Mysteries. They're like, yeah, I wish we did, but we vividly remember him coming over and telling us about what happened. I mean, it was clear everyone that, before the military moved in, it just did a total shutdown on it.
Yeah. In fact, strangely enough, I was watching a recording last night. UFO Highway, is it called? That was a fairly recent one. And they were talking to a neighbour of Brazel's, who actually, the neighbour was actually with Brazel when he saw it. And apparently they actually got some of this material and buried it in a cave. And they, of course, sort of all those years ago, 70 odd years ago, this cave sort of disappeared and they were trying to find it.
Wow. I do remember something about that. Now you know that you can go to that, the crash site. Well, actually there was two.
Yeah.
But, there's one where the bodies were, and then, the ship skipped or whatever, and then had an ultimate landing place. But one of the areas where you can actually go out there with a metal detector now. Now, they would never allow that if that area wasn't just scoured. I mean, they're not going to let any of that, be found. There's just no way.
Yeah, well, apparently there were hundreds of personnel out there, weren't they, clearing up the site and everything. So, it's always a fascinating story. I believe something happened myself, as I say. I read the book, The Day After Roswell. That was
excellent book.
That was an excellent book, yeah. Now, I believe that, what's his name? Sorry, his name's left the tip of my tongue. But I believe he was sort of led up I believe he was given some false information, though, in actual fact, to make him look silly. But he was actually a high-ranking officer, wasn't he? As well.
Oh, absolutely.
And he worked in the Pentagon.
And you know all about the teletext, or whatever they would call it, where they're holding that piece of paper in the one photograph that was enhanced, where you can make out a lot of the words where it says disc, bodies, and, that's the smoking gun of Roswell, as they call it, because, no one ever knew there'd be even the technology now to be able to scan in with computers and make out a lot of those words.
Yeah.
And it's clear what it says. It says crash, it says bodies, it says disc. That's the smoking gun right there. And that hasn't, that was in the National Archives, that one photo where they're looking at the weather balloon.
Sure, yeah.
And, that guy's leaning over with part of the letter. I think that was Marcel Sr. I think was it Blanchard? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but,
Blanchard was there. It was us, right?
Yeah. So he's leaning over with that teletext where you can read it. So the people just enhanced it, or somebody with really good, computer software, and you could clearly make out those words. Disc, bodies. It's the smoking gun. No one ever thought at the time that we would have the technology to enhance that photograph.
Sure, yeah. So we've all heard of the alien autopsy. Now, do you believe that there was actually an alien autopsy? And
I would assume there had to have been. There was definitely bodies there. There was 3, and one of them was still alive from most accounts.
Yeah, well, I understand that too. But do you remember when the alien autopsy film came out? Were you taken in?
Yeah, I remember. No, not at all. I mean, I was intrigued by it, but I knew it had just this kind of a hoax element about it. It's just something didn't ring true with it. I think there's a YouTube video of a lady that says she was there during some of that, and I think that didn't pan out to be real, but it sounds really intriguing because I do believe they recovered the bodies. Absolutely did.
Yeah, I mean, I know the fellow Spiros Bilaris who actually made the film, so he's been on this show actually, and of course there's been stories that was actually the genuine film, but of course it wasn't, and he can prove it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. That was my impression as well.
But I've got to admit, at the time I was kind of taken in. I thought, oh, is this really true?
Yeah, I was a little bit. I remember that was a big TV event, especially here in the States. So it was definitely a big TV event, and obviously I believed it. I think that was, I knew Roswell happened, so when that came out, I thought, yeah, did they actually leak footage from it?
That's right.
So, about the Bob Lazar thing too, I mean, that's intriguing. I really don't know if Bob Lazar is credible, and this is coming from someone who definitely believes in UFOs, but, look, Lazar's story is interesting. It's sort of like Billy Meyer. I don't really believe Billy Meyer's credible either, but I definitely think we do have recovered the craft and the bodies from Roswell.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bob Lazar. Now, that's another one. Now, for about 20 years, I actually believed his story. It's only been kind of lately when it's, when it's really sort of kicked off with the film and everything, I've sort of had some doubts because I've seen some evidence that he's lying and things like that, and I'm kind of on the fence with Bob Lazar now. I don't know whether to believe him or not, maybe like you.
I think he has some information. I don't know if he actually saw anything. The part with his educational background really can't ring true. Logistically, he can't make it work with MIT, and I think it was Caltech he said he went to. It's just logistically, he can't even make that work.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes in his story, isn't there?
There's a lot of holes in the front end of his story. Definitely an interesting guy. He's a pretty smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a good storyteller.
I mean, he had to be working there in the first place. I mean, I do believe he did work there, like you say, but in what capacity, I'm not quite so sure.
Yeah. I think he knew just enough to get him in trouble. I mean, it's just, it's kind of what happened there. I don't know if he actually saw anything. And this, I'll say again, I believe it. I believe we have that stuff. I just don't know if the story rings true. So he actually can do a lot more harm than good as far as disclosure.
Yeah, it is a kind of a shame that the money element comes into a lot of these things, doesn't it? It's,
Oh yeah, the money and the interviews and things like that come into it, and just the notoriety. And plus, once he started with that story, it's kind of, what is he going to do? It's kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, it takes its own legs on, doesn't it? Yeah. And I mean,
he starts with Art Bell and then it just goes.
You can't really blame people if people start offering you money. You can't really blame people for taking it.
That's
but unfortunately, it's true. Unfortunately, we're all human, and and I think that kind of encourages somebody to start enhancing their story and make, in order to make it saleable, to maybe make more money out of it. I think that's the way it kind of goes with some people.
Yeah, it really does. Or even just the notoriety, actually he would probably try to defend himself and say, I haven't really made any money from this, but he's gotten a lot of notoriety. George Knapp out of Las Vegas, he did a lot of interviews with him. I think George Knapp is great. Better UFO investigators in general, Skinwalker Ranch and stuff like that. And I think he believed Lazar. I think he still does. I mean, obviously he probably doesn't want to come against him because he always grants him interviews.
Yeah.
But Knapp's the one that first put Lazar out there for public consumption. So pretty interesting. Either way you look at it, it's an interesting story.
I mean, there are quite a few high-ranking researchers out there that do believe the Lazar story. At the same time, there's quite a few that don't. So
like Stan Freeman didn't. No, Stan Freeman was always skeptical of him.
Yeah, I love Stan Freeman. Stan, he was a great.
Oh, he's great.
I met him once. I was lucky enough to meet him once.
Oh man, you're very lucky.
Yeah,
I'd love to have met him.
He was over here actually. I've got a picture on my wall actually with him. But
that's great.
And I did actually do a little story. When he died, basically, I had Kathleen Marden and Don Schmidt on two different shows. We did a little tribute show, but he was a great researcher, and he was sadly missed. Actually, Stan, he was one of the.
I heard he was a very nice guy.
Yeah,
very approachable, and that's why I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah. I'm very pleased I got to meet him, but. I mean, as far as UFOs go, I live actually near Rendlesham.
Oh, wow.
So, I don't know if you've ever been over here.
I've been to London. I've not been to that part of the country.
Oh, right. Maybe it's one of those places. If you ever get a chance to come over here, you should come and visit Rendlesham. I'm about 20 minutes away from Rendlesham Forest.
Oh, wow.
And I actually know Colonel Holt personally quite well. He stayed at my home and everything. So that's quite a big story. But this is not my show. I'm just telling you I live near Rendlesham, that's all. But that's
great.
This is obviously your show, but, what are your feelings? Do you know much about the Rendlesham incident? Have you heard much?
I've heard quite a bit about it, but I want to dig back into it. I mean, I would love to do a YouTube video. I do, different YouTube videos.
Sure,
but, that's one that I think someone, a friend even suggested doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot going on about the Rendlesham, because it's the 40th anniversary next year, so, I'm actually trying to arrange another conference, because I had one for Colonel Holt last year, he came over, which was quite successful. But it's the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, it's like the English version of Roswell.
Yeah, it is rather only kind of. But I think there's more substance to this, isn't there, rather than the Roswell? Because a lot of, in the early days with Roswell, a lot of it was easier to brush away and hide. But I think
sure it was.
Because this was in 1980, it was kind of. I wouldn't say bigger, because it wouldn't be right to term it that, but there was more evidence of something actually happening. Because there was a lot.
I think the governments over there are just more open about it. Like, Mexico and England, anything outside of the United States is far more open about what they know.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't say that, but they did cover it up quite a bit. But I do, I think things are gradually slipping out. I mean, we did have a lot of UFO reports. They've actually sort of put them on record now. They've brought all the records out, but I do think they still hold a lot of it back. Although they tell you they've released it all, I still don't believe they do.
Yeah, I don't know what the hold up is. I really don't. I just think no one's going to be jumping off bridges if they go ahead and admit what they know.
No, of course not. It's I mean, how do you feel about disclosure the way it's going? Do you think it's just because I mean, I don't know how you feel, but there's so many things on television nowadays about the UFO shows, like you mentioned earlier. To me, it seems like there's a gradual drip feed to get us all used to the idea.
That's a good way of thinking about it. I think it is, especially with some of these mass sightings. I mean, like the Phoenix Lights and some of these bigger ones where there's multiple witnesses where, you can't just make them, if all people of all kinds of backgrounds, you just can't write them off as easy as you could, especially now with cell phones and video and a lot of these being captured. I think if at some point a really incredible sighting will be caught on video, and then it'll be, like you said, kind of the slow drip will finally start speeding up, and we might finally get there.
Yeah. Well, to me, it seems like more military people are willing to come out now and say what they've seen.
Oh, yeah, like the Navy that would release the videos that they had and the testimony from the Navy pilots on what they were seeing. Where they've been seeing these objects for years. That's why they termed the name Foo Fighters. So, there's a rock band in America with that name, and that's where that term comes from. Was what the pilots would call the UFOs. They had a name for it. They called them Foo Fighters. They were so common, they had a name for it.
Well, that's right. I mean,
so finally that's getting out.
It's like our side, like the Americans in the UK, we thought it was a German secret weapon, and the Germans thought it was a US or UK secret weapon, didn't they? Which was quite strange. Because we were all seeing the same thing. Well, say we. I mean, we weren't around, but it's pretty. I mean, they're still here and they're still doing it. So.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of things are interdimensional. I think things are because we've been messing about with nuclear power and everything. Things have become more prominent now, and I think they're worried about where we're going with our nuclear power.
That's a good assertion. I mean, I think they are worried about a lot of that. I never really understood quite I don't know if you're familiar with Linda Moulton Howe's work and all the cattle mutilations. So she started with the book Strange Harvest. And, it's just so crazy with it, these things would go. And if you follow David Paulides' stuff, all the missing people in the national parks. I don't know if you followed much of that, but this kind of has an international, play to it, and possibly UFO abductions where these people are in national parks and they're just
thousands have gone missing,
by thousands. Yeah. And there's really no other explanation for, they just can't disappear because the search and rescue efforts are very organized and detailed. I mean, there could be one here and there. They slept, fell between some rock or down in some body of water.
Or eaten by a bear or something.
But if you were eaten by an animal, you would have found, the blood and the carnage from it. But there is and I think he's starting to finally speculate, because when he came out with all this, he's brilliant. He tells you all the stories, but doesn't weigh in too heavy on what's going on with him. But lately he's starting to a little more. And I think he truly believes it has some form of, interdimensional portal. Like these people are in the woods and they see it's just like this window open up, or something. And then somebody even had a story about where they, kind of put an arm through it and you couldn't see their arm anymore. Where it is this other dimensional, you're going through it and you get stuck there. And some of these people are stuck in this other dimension and can't get back out. I mean, it's as plausible as anything because the numbers are staggering.
Yeah. I mean, it could be they go through into a different dimension thinking they're still in this dimension. And, because if you're talking about twin worlds and things, you might not even know the difference. It's
exactly. It's like a mirror. It's like a looking into a mirror, like this, everything. I read a story from a guy, it might have been in Ukraine, somewhere over there where they said they had some disclosure on some of the missing people and someone reported, I guess they got out, but they were in this other dimension for a while when they were lost real deep in the woods somewhere. And they said it was a similar world, but that everything was in reverse. Like everything was like being in this world, but just flipped upside down was the way he described it. It's fascinating. I think I'm going to write a novel kind of based on that.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's, in fact, the lady who introduced this show, Adele Casales-Rocha, she's done a lot of writing about missing people in national parks.
Oh wow!
And things like that. You might try and get in touch with her. You probably
definitely. I'd love to hear her theories on where they are.
Yeah,
I mean,
Adele Casales-Rocha. She's got a book out actually. Or she's got a couple of books out, I believe. But a very interesting show. I mean, if you can look at, I'll send you the link for the show I did with her.
Please do.
But it's very good. I'm hoping to get her back on the show at some point. Actually, she's a very interesting lady.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah, I think there is some kind of a, other dimensional, UFO, thing connected to it. I think it is, a lot of the UFOs are, probably just more interdimensional than just, being able to come from beyond the stars.
Yeah, rather than extra
billions of light years away. It just makes more sense that it somehow can manipulate time.
I mean, obviously, if there can be civilizations, and I'm sure there are civilizations out there that are probably a million years in advance of what we are. So there's probably no reason why they can't, they've discovered ways to travel. But then why would they be interested in us anyway? If we,
That's a good point. Maybe it gets back to the Nephilim and things like that and planting seeds and we're part alien and that whole thing. And they're just kind of, watching their project come along and keeping it in line. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only reason they would be more interested in us if we were having some effect on them. So that's why I kind of think that about this interdimensional thing where we're playing around with nuclear weapons and bombs and God knows what else, and it can be affecting them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even how it's just how the timelines work in that. And even if they could go back, and maybe it's somewhat problematic. And, and maybe being able to do this interdimensional travel is hard on them or something. And they might need something that we have to keep them alive. I don't know. I mean, especially with some of these abduction cases. I mean, some of them, I think, the one of the most believable is the one of, Travis Walton. I think
I've met Travis as well.
One of the best. Yeah. I'm sure he seems totally legit. Yeah. What's your opinion of him?
I believe him. I've met him twice actually. Yeah. I do believe his story. And the fact that he went missing for 4 days, didn't he? And then reappeared again.
4 days.
And his best friends were getting accused of murdering him. I know the film kind of exaggerates the story.
Yeah, Hollywood it out.
But I do think the early parts of the film were quite accurate. It's only like when you get on the spaceship and everything, they've been given it a bit of an artistic license and made it into a sort of a science fiction type film. But the actual, if you read the actual story of Travis's, it's very, very interesting. I think it's very compelling, and I do believe his story. Yeah,
I do too. I think that's been going on for a while. I don't know how widespread it is, but it's definitely happening. And what they want to do with human beings, they get up on the spacecraft. They're just with these experiments. They're after something, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, to me, it seems like they may have even been trying to save his life, didn't it? Because he got too close to the craft, and apparently, he was knocked out by it, some flash or something. And then when he disappeared, it seems like they may have taken him on the craft to actually save his life, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think
then
I think that's his theory as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he had that element of missing time, which really makes you think of the, I think it was what the Allagash 4. I think it was very similar to his story. I think that was in Michigan or something, but that really similar story, but it was multiple, I think it was 3 or 4 guys that were taken up, in similar fashion to Travis was and had that element of missing time about it, which makes you think, they're either just erasing your memory or it's this, dimensional type. Maybe when you're on the craft, it just our way of measuring, space and time is it's different, different frequency.
I mean, the fact that his friends were actually accused of murder and getting rid of the body and everything, it kind of says a lot to me. And then he reappeared and everyone was shocked by it.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it just makes sense. And none of those guys have ever changed their story that I know of.
No,
I think at some point someone might squeal, but they didn't.
Yeah. And also going back in history of in the States, there's quite a lot of stuff that goes back, like was it Eureka? There was a spaceship supposed to have crashed, wasn't there? Was it Eureka? I think what the name of the town was now. I know
there's one in Arkansas. I think there was one in Arkansas that was real similar to Roswell.
Yeah, and there were like newspaper reports.
Maybe not. I can't. I know there was one that was really similar where a guy got a picture of one of the bodies. It was similar to Roswell, is this one you're talking about, where the spaceship crashed? There was bodies on the ground.
Yeah, we're talking about the turn of the century.
Had a whole photograph.
Yeah.
On turn of the century, I don't remember one around that time, but there's been a few through the years. I mean, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I'm actually talking about
there's been more.
Like before the 1900s. It was 18 something. There was
there was one in Texas that goes back that far. There's one that happened in Texas, and they believe that the body, there was a story that it crashed, and this was probably the early 1900s, but it was a crash, and they found the body and they buried it in a cemetery.
That's right. There. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that was in Texas.
And there was a newspaper report about it. Now,
right.
Now, I mean, the mentality. I'm not in the Midwest back then. They wouldn't have been thinking of aliens and things and spaceships and stuff like that, would they? And so
because that was before the war, the War in the World.
Yeah,
Martians coming down and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it was before those days.
So that would have been quite inventive to make a story like that up to put in the local newspaper, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that was Cass County, Texas, but I saw one documentary where some speculate that, he's either, the body's either buried in that cemetery or maybe down a water well.
Yeah.
Out there, but I don't know if they ever got permission to try to exhume the body, but the stories were there when that incident happened.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that when you do get stories like that, do you think they may get a secret investigation into it, which obviously doesn't make the public view?
Oh, absolutely. I think that can happen a lot. I think that, the natural instinct of, any kind of even local police is to cover something up like that because people won't believe them. Yeah.
And it makes you wonder why the cover-up, though, doesn't it? I mean, I suppose it all goes back to this Illuminati thing about the book you've written.
It really does. Those two tie in very well. They really do. I mean, you wonder about, they talk about the Illuminati bloodlines and all that. Well, they go back to, antiquity. I mean, so if there is this, alien hybrid people out there that have some of that bloodline, that's probably what it would be is alien, in a satanic in nature. I mean, going back to all these esoteric, secrets and magic that have been going on for a long time. I mean, I think it really does have an alien influence to it. I mean, I think there's, without a doubt, a tie in there.
Yeah, the mystic arts, which have been hidden from us, and we've been basically switched off from them, haven't we, in our minds? Sort of dumbed down, I think, our minds are, in order to
totally dumbed down, by the processed food and everything else, the fluoride in the water. I mean, does the government really care about our teeth that much?
No,
they want to put fluoride in the water?
And they say sugar.
Or, the autism.
They say sugar is another one, isn't it? Another controlled substance.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that sugar can lead to a lot of bad things, and there's an addiction to sugar. I mean, you just see it. I mean, it's just, people can't put it down. I mean, it's just, you can't, we get way more than we need, or, we probably don't need any, but people just can't put it down. I mean, you have to have it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like
it's almost a dependency.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the big companies are actually controlled by the Illuminati to keep us controlled by using sugar, When the amount of sugar and things they put in things like Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola and everything like that, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's over the top, and I mean, and the sugar substitutes. I mean, like aspartame, that's worse way worse for you than the real even processed sugar.
Yeah.
That's a really nasty chemical that you see in a lot of the diet drinks and a lot of the sugar-free foods. I mean, it's literally a brain-wasting chemical.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not touch it. I'd rather have, copious amounts of pure sugar than aspartame any day of the week. It's even worse for you.
Yeah,
so you try to do better. Like you see these people, they'll quit drinking the regular, Coca-Cola soda type, and they'll switch over to a diet drink, and then they don't lose any weight. They actually gain weight because there's something in that. No, it's true. There's something in it that makes you want to even have more of it.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, you're saying that. I mean, I've actually done that. I've stopped drinking the sugar Coke and started drinking the other one, what you've just been mentioning. So I'm going to stop drinking that one now. In fact,
there's something in it.
It's Pepsi, no sugar, and I believe that's the same stuff as what you're mentioning.
Yeah, it is. It's a bad chemical. You don't want to just drink water if you have to, but it's just hard for me. I don't even drink water hardly at all, but it's tough.
No, I think it's been realised but by a lot of the supermarkets over here, the prices seem to, we're going off the paranormal rails a little bit here, but the prices have sort of, they can't seem to sell it because I think that story is getting out about these chemicals not being good for you,
No, I really do. I believe it. I think people are starting to figure out, the food dyes. Look at the autism rates. When I was growing up, I had one friend that had an autistic brother, and that's the only one I knew about that had that. Now, it seems like, 15% of the schools, I mean, the kids have some form of what they call on the spectrum of autism.
Yeah.
And I do think it's related to the vaccines. I really do. I think anyone that says otherwise is fooling themselves, and they don't want that out. Like, in fact, if you were what they call an anti-vaxxer over here, you're almost like condemned. I mean, it's, one doctor that writes a lot of books about it, I think his name is David Sears in California. I mean, they almost try to, pull his medical license over it. And he's not completely anti-vaccine. He just recommends at least spacing them out and not giving these kids all these vaccine shots when they're so little.
Yeah.
That's just messing up their brains.
Yeah. I think there's another thing we've been programmed with, isn't it? That we need to have these vaccines. I mean, I've got to say, the vaccines I had as a kid, they never affected me, or did they? I don't know. Maybe I've been controlled, but I've managed to slip out of that.
Yeah, and see things for what they are. Yeah. You're just lucky. I mean, I think some are just more susceptible to those vaccines.
Yeah.
That would just make sense because a lot of them do get the same amount and they don't wind up having the level of autism that someone else did. I think it's just maybe their physical makeup, their physiology, that they were just a little more susceptible to the vaccines that they got. But I definitely think there's a link there. Yeah. There's just no doubt.
I mean, we say that there's no paranormal link, but there is a paranormal link because if it's being controlled by the Illuminati and all these Illuminatis are controlling the populace by all these drugs and things, then, and it all goes back to the bloodlines, the ancient bloodlines, then there is a paranormal link there. Because what are your thoughts about the reptilians? You hear about the reptilians, and they are the bloodlines that control, or supposedly control, us.
That's true, and I know, I know David Icke gets into that a lot. And that was just kind of far out for me, but I think there is a tie there, with this alien tie, because everything else he says, I mean, like, I love his stuff. It's great. I've seen a lot of it. So I know what's going on without a doubt. So, I mean, it's something I want to get into a little more. I think there's definitely a connection there that it should be studied. I haven't gotten into the reptilian part.
No.
Very deep, but.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you start actually, I mean, I agree with you. I thought it just sounds so ridiculous and so far out.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did actually start looking, and reading some of David Icke's stuff, it's actually not his theories. He's actually backing up other people's theories. It's,
yeah, just kind of pulling them together.
He's supporting what they've said about the ancient bloodlines and, like they crashed to Earth and everything, and they've turned into like interdimensional beings that control us as such, and it's all actually quite believable when you actually read the full stories. And I've actually known a few people that have seen reptilians, and they're the sort of people that I do actually believe. So, I mean, I've not seen anything.
And there's some photographs of these people that sort of like in a transitional phase. You see that really make you wonder.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, a lot of the some of the major film stars and pop stars and things are being controlled by reptilians, aren't they? And mass murderers and such.
Oh, I believe it. I really do. And, when you get into things like MK Ultra and, I think some of these mass murderers are just standing by, and controlled by the CIA and the FBI, like, the incident we had over here in Las Vegas. That one really makes you wonder how this guy did that. I mean, he just, out of nowhere does this without even being, really into guns at all. Then he gets, this massive cache of guns and he's able to shoot at people from a hotel window like that at a fairly decent rate. But it's just strange. And he was a very paranoid guy. He would tell these prostitutes that he had that, 9/11 was an inside job and all this kind of conspiratorial stuff that he seemed to be convinced of. And I don't think it was just this case of this guy was just whacked out of his mind. I think they had some form of control over him.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how he got all those guns into the hotel in the first place, really.
That's a good point. MGM settled all those lawsuits for quite a bit of money. I mean, of course, they could afford it for the most part, and they didn't want it to drag out anymore, but settled for a pretty penny.
Yeah. No, it's all scary, all that, all these conspiracy things, but some of them, a lot of the time, I don't know whether to believe them or not. A lot of the 9/11 stuff, I do kind of believe there's some sort of conspiracy there myself, and linked to the Illuminati, like you've mentioned before.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're not going off the paranormal subject, but I believe the Pentagon. I mean, I'm going to say this on the air. I don't care. The evidence that I've seen, there's a missile that hit the Pentagon, not an aeroplane.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and there's a lot of strange questions that have not been answered by.
I'm open to be corrected by anyone,
reports.
But I've not seen any evidence of any aeroplanes. I mean, we've heard that the aeroplane that was supposed to have hit the Pentagon, but the evidence when you look at it, it just doesn't tie up.
It doesn't add up. And the controlled demolition aspect of the buildings, those are Building 11 or something that it just wasn't. I mean, there's no reason for that building to go down. It was almost just like someone pushed a button.
That's right.
Down
And then when you look at that, and you accept, okay, it was a missile that hit the Pentagon, then you start looking and think, well, why are they telling us it was an aeroplane if it was a missile, and then you've got to start backtracking and you think, well, if that was a lie, then the Twin Tower attack must have been a lie too, and... Yeah,
one thing leads to another.
I can't see how the buildings crumbled the way they did into like dust, the dustification. It just disappeared into nothing, didn't they?
They really did. I mean, I think the documentary Loose Change is the one that really got a lot of people looking into that. And, there's still people that try to refute it, and there's still a group out there that's called, I think, the Truth for 9/11, and they do a lot of good work. That's made up of engineers and architects for 9/11 Truth.
Yeah, Dr. Judy Wood's book is excellent.
Oh, absolutely. Very good book on the subject. There's something there. There really is. I mean, how they got these guys to hijack the plane and what how all that came about. But, there's
and they could barely fly a small Cessna, and they flew an airliner. It just,
commercial jetliner.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To me.
It makes no sense.
When you actually look at the evidence.
So many anomalies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's strange.
We've got a guy over here called Andrew Johnson. I don't know if you've heard of him. But he's worked with Dr. Judy Wood quite closely. He's another one that's worth getting in touch with over here. He did a show with me actually about the secret space secret space program. We did a show on, and but he's actually very much into the 9/11 conspiracies as well, and he's very knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, a lot of these people, they're not kooks. They're very educated and smart. They just want to know the truth. If you show us something that makes sense, we'll accept it and move on.
Yeah.
But they can't. There's just too many there, especially with these loose reporting. I mean, it's like, it's like the Warren Commission on JFK.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not believable. We know there's more going on, so we're going to keep asking questions.
Well, you bring Jared Cab. It all goes back to his assassination. I believe he was assassinated because he was going to actually release some information about. So the story goes about aliens on the planet.
You know what? I've heard that too, and I believe he would have been the guy to do it. I think they really wanted to take him out because he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
That gets you back to the Rothschild stuff and Illuminati.
Yeah.
I think that's probably scared him plenty, but if anyone was going to disclose it, he would have been the guy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a story, because he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe, but there was stories that he told her about some of it, and that's the reason that she was murdered as well.
Oh yeah, it was very suspicious murder there, without a doubt. I mean, I have heard that. That is a really interesting lineup. And I think they had plenty of reasons to try to get rid of him, and that being one of them.
Yeah, I think Richard Dolan's done a lot of research about that as well, hasn't he? But,
yeah, he has. Dolan has for sure. He's good.
Yeah.
But, you talk about the Bushes. There's some people there I don't trust. You know what really got me into these secret things?
Careful, you'll have a hit, aren't you?
Yeah. It's not as bad as the Clintons, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe it's all the same.
Yeah.
That's where you go. It's all the same.
Well,
that's one thing I always noticed. Voting in our elections over here for president. I mean, okay, this is a person's Republican or Democrat or these labels. And one thing I would notice through the years of voting is nothing really would change.
No.
We're going to come in and do this, or he's this. I mean, it's all like somebody else is controlling them.
Yeah, it's like they're the front man, but you've got puppets pulling the strings behind, haven't you?
Yeah, it is just the puppet master in charge. I mean, hopefully Trump's not part of the cabal, but because it seems like he's got him pretty shaken up. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Time will tell.
I actually think Trump's done quite a lot for the country. From what I've seen, anyway. I mean,
I believe he has. I really believe he has. I think he's got the New World Order / deep state, whatever you want to call it, pretty riled up.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're putting on an act, they're pretty good actors.
Yeah, I think they've shaken him. He's shaken him up quite a lot, hasn't he?
Okay, yeah, quite a bit.
I think the US would have been in a lot more trouble had Clinton won that election.
Absolutely. No one knew the level of corruption that was going on.
No,
we knew it was bad, but we didn't know it was this bad.
Yeah, so all the emails that she destroyed and everything, and I bet I've got quite a few Americans screaming at me now. Because I know it's a very emotive subject. The politics.
Oh, it is over here. It's kind of a shame in a lot of ways because there's a lot good paranormal groups and things here, and then the politics is just getting into all of it. Yeah. It's just like that's a good way to screw up a paranormal message group or a Facebook group. I mean, I'm a member of a lot of them. I mean, it's just,
everyone starts falling out with each other about it. Maybe that's the plan though, Drew. It makes me wonder.
Oh yeah, the fighting, that is. They want to control both sides. They want to control both sides of the wars.
Yeah.
That's Illuminati. We just want to keep people just separated and to make you come to will and martial law. That is their goal. They want us to fight.
Divide and conquer. Of course, it's always been
divide and conquer. Yeah, they control both sides.
I mean, we've had
they don't want to just say, we're on this side or we're on this side. Yeah. They control both sides.
Well, as you know, we've had much the same over here with the Brexit thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been going on for like 3 years.
Very similar.
We've just had a general election where the Tories won,
Boris Johnson,
and it was a decisive vote, and we've still got people moaning saying they don't want to leave the EU. And
I've read about a lot of protests going on, of course. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing in the UK.
But I mean, democracy has spoken, and I mean, unfortunately, it's spoken for the second time.
The second time. What happened with the first vote? I mean, they don't want that out. That's a new. Come on, the EU is nothing but New World Order.
Yeah,
let's face it.
I mean, we had obviously people wanting to have a second referendum and calling it having the people's vote. But hang on a minute, we've already had a people's vote. We voted to leave the EU.
Yeah, and then it's like, what happened? We voted for it, and what's going on? I mean, I know you can't pull out overnight. There's a lot of things involved to make that separation happen, but that was what the vote was.
Yeah, that's
the will of the people. What are they trying to do over here in the States is overturn the will of the people with this impeachment thing. I mean,
I know.
Like or hate Trump, he really didn't do anything to rise to that level. It's just they want him out.
Yeah, do you think, they've been trying to get him out since he got in, but
that's true.
Do you think anything will happen over the impeachments or?
No, I really don't. I think they'll be, that's going to happen next week. I think there's a lot of the House members that are in the Trump districts are sweating it out pretty bad. I mean, there could be a last minute thing where they just wind up censuring him so they don't, lose all those House seats.
Yeah.
But they're kind of backed against the corner. I think they'll go ahead and do it. Of course, he'll never be removed. But, it's just, stirring up the strife at a fever pitch.
Yeah.
I think they really have their backs against the wall.
No, I do remember
they were desperate.
Even in the first week when he got in, I remember they were talking about trying to get him impeached straight away, weren't they?
They were so shocked they lost. They had to think of anything they could to get rid of him.
And it just hasn't stopped at all since.
A 3-year investigation with the Russian collusion deal that never panned out for them. So they're in full panic mode.
Yeah. And then you're heading for a general election yourself next year. Well, not you. I mean, Trump.
The country. Yeah,
do you think he'll get back in again?
Absolutely.
You do?
No doubt about it. I mean, yeah, because the people, think about the people in the middle. You have these people, okay, I'm right wing, I'm left wing, and I hate Trump, and we love him. There's the group in the middle is like, wait a minute, there's, things are better, the economy's better, things are pretty stable. It's the group in the middle, and they're definitely turned off by impeachment because I think there's such a sense of fairness still here in America where you like, people that don't even really particularly like him still don't like things that look that unfair. Like they still want to see what he did, and they didn't make their case. So that he's going to get the sympathy vote. The same thing happened with Bill Clinton, where the Republicans impeached him over lying, and he definitely lied, but there was still a sense of it's a little too harsh of a penalty to impeach him over it. And it won him a lot of sympathy. The same thing will happen to Trump. I think he's a shoo-in to win. Well,
the thing is with Clinton, I thought he was actually quite a good president until I started realising about all the dodgy dealings he'd been up with.
Yeah, that's true. You find out later. But yeah, he was a guy that he kind of did bridge both sides. I think because he was likable, unlike his spouse, he was a pretty likable person. He was pretty upbeat. Why not? He's running around with all the women and playing the saxophone, but he was this likable type person, that kind of bridged that gap. I mean, I think personally, had that personality that kind of worked for him.
Yeah. I mean, he was a good orator as well. I mean, he didn't have to, he could stand in front of a group of people without a piece of paper and speak for quite a while, couldn't he?
And a smart guy, he was a Rhodes Scholar. Really smart. I mean, just despite his transgressions, he's not an unintelligent man.
Anyway, I guess we ought to, let's come off of politics again for a little while. Let's just what about Bigfoot? Have you had any experiences or heard of, or spoken to anyone about Bigfoot? We were talking about the national parks and people going missing and things like that. But Bigfoot is one of the things that interests me quite a bit.
Well, yeah, I mentioned David Paulides, who hit it big with this national park stuff. Well, where David came from, obviously, he had a law enforcement background, but his main thing is Bigfoot. He was a Bigfoot researcher. And, he knows well how the different groups are between, you have the Bigfoot group here, you have the UFO, MUFON type groups over here, and it's like, we're different than you, or we don't, we believe in UFOs and we think Bigfoot's a joke, but he came out of the Bigfoot world, and that ties in. I mean, I think, that's how he progressed into these missing people, because, the whole Bigfoot thing is, I think he believes it's probably interdimensional. To a good degree.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's a bit like our Loch Ness Monster. I think that's kind of been an interdimensional thing as well. I'll say ours. I mean,
it could be. I think Bigfoot could be. You know what I mean? I talk into the Patterson-Gimlin field quite a bit. Now that we have this technology where they clean the film up, so to speak, and they put it all together. There's really, the only thing odd about it at all is that they were out looking for a Bigfoot. Other than that, it is solid. That film is solid. I mean, first of all, it's a female with breasts. That's what hence the name Patty, obviously after Patterson, but it's a female, and no one could look at that film and people have already that thing's been examined a million ways to one.
Nobody's been able to put it apart.
No Hollywood in that year could not have made a suit better than that. Just the way that the arms are swinging, you just can't do it. I mean, that's a legitimate film. I fully believe that the Patty on the Patterson-Gimlin film is absolutely a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, it is very intriguing. I actually agree with you there. It's a shame they couldn't have got more of it and filmed a bit more,
Yeah, it really was.
A few seconds of
more,
it.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. I mean, it's the only thing strange is that they were out looking.
Yeah.
But those guys never changed their story. Never, it wasn't some big money play. I mean, yeah, they wanted to find it, but man, if they did fake that's a bigger story than finding the Bigfoot, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, because what it would have taken back in that year to do it, was it 71 or something? It was just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could study it on video, and now that they've cleaned it up, you could just say, how would you do it? I mean, you just couldn't. I mean, the hair on that's just a couple of guys with a costume doing that. There's no way. It's just too good.
No, I tend to agree with you. And in that film, it actually looks like the Bigfoot is actually kind of afraid of the people as well, doesn't it? As if he's afraid of being seen.
She kind of looks back and then just getting away. Yeah, that's one reason why they probably haven't found any, because they know to evade humans. They've been doing it so long.
Yeah, but you think
people make the argument.
You kind of think that being a big ape, if you like, it would actually not be afraid of the humans. It might try to attack them rather than try to avoid and run away from them. But
absolutely, a lot of people say, "Well, why haven't we found any of the bodies of them?" Well, they probably like humans; they bury their dead.
Yeah, But of course, if they're interdimensional beings, and
they're you wouldn't have to worry about that. You just bury them in the other dimension.
No, I mean, if they're linked to spacecraft
but I think there is a connection there. I really do. I think that's what led David Paulides into the missing people thing, is because he started as a Bigfoot guy, and I think it led him into this kind of a natural progression. I mean, even though the story goes, it was 2 park rangers that approached him and said, "Hey, we're just going to let you know there's all these strange disappearances here in the parks, but it's just at these crazy levels." But I truly believe, one of the cases he talks about a lot really sounds like this kind of man-beast hybrid. It was I think it was in Tennessee or something, one of those parks. I'm trying to remember the name of the kid, but they really believe it was like this Bigfoot type creature that abducted this child. From all reports, because they would hear the howling, and another family had heard the howling, during the time this kid went missing. I mean, it was like he was there one second, he was playing hide and seek, and then all of a sudden he's just gone. Like some, creature like that grabbed him, but with enough intelligence not to, to make any noise until he got away with this kid. Yeah. But,
I mean, like,
really interesting tie-ins.
Yeah. It's like we mentioned, I mean, thousands of people go missing in just the US national parks alone. Now, when you look at people that go missing all over the world, it goes into tens of thousands, doesn't it? It's
definitely not exclusive to the United States. There are clusters, like he's identified, like Yosemite is one of the heavier ones over here, but he's found them in Australia. I don't know how much he's done on England, but a lot in Australia and a lot in, obviously the US and these certain parks, but they do seem to be around the park. Yeah. Maybe they just,
I mean, obviously,
where would the Bigfoot be?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the UK is a lot smaller than the States and Australia and everything like that. But we do have our missing people that just disappear off the face of the earth. Even in the middle of London, you people just disappear and you'd never hear from them again.
Yeah, you just never find them. I mean, the people that wouldn't have been suspected of running away either, they have jobs and families or whatever, they're just gone.
Which takes me kind of back to the Illuminati again. I wonder about, you hear about all these, trafficking, sex trafficking and everything like that. And, I don't know what your feelings are about the Illuminati being involved in things like that, and not the government officials and, deep
well, they're all
deep
tied
space, not deep space, deep state, being behind it all. Do you think there's a connection?
It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. This is all the same. I mean, talk about deep state and government politicians. These people are in every walk of life. Yeah. I mean, they have their people everywhere. Like somebody was asking me before, aren't these Illuminati people all from the bloodlines? I'm like, no. They have their troops. I mean, that book was written by Fritz Springmeier called Bloodlines of the Illuminati. I mean, he, goes into the different groups that are associated with the bloodlines of the Illuminati, like Club of Rome and the Grand Druid Council, groups such as this. These are made up of people that aren't part of the bloodline. They're just groups controlled by the Illuminati, like infiltrating the Freemasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they control the Freemasons. That's a fact. I mean, they're there. I mean, a lot of the rank and file Freemasons, I know some. They don't have a clue what the goal is.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean they're
just foot soldiers. They only tell you what you need to know until you get to the highest point. Then you figure out, okay, this is what that meant.
That's right. Yeah, these are just the front people, aren't they? That they use basically to hide what's going on behind.
Yeah, that's all they're doing. I mean, they're not even knowledgeable about it. Like, you're working for us, you just don't realize what you're doing. You're part of it, but we're not going to tell you the true stuff. It's just how the structure is.
Yeah.
That's how the Illuminati is. It's all the same. Yeah. Deep state and covering up, like you're talking about child trafficking.
Yeah.
I think they're involved in all of that. Yeah. I think they're involved in child trafficking. You talk about human sacrifice, the children sacrifice and things. I know some of that, some of the pedophilia stuff happened up there in England. A pretty big case that got found out, and some of these guys had ties to masonry and different things. I think they're into all of it.
Yeah.
Not just human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun running.
Sure, yeah.
I think they're any way you can make money.
Yeah.
I think that they have their hands in all of it.
I mean, I've heard the CIA and probably our MI6 are involved in stuff like that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's definitely ties with that. I think that and they cover it up. Look at Jeffrey Epstein over here that mysteriously committed suicide.
Which I don't believe at all.
Absolutely not. He was a Mossad agent. I mean, it all goes back to that. He was a Mossad agent, that had all the dirt on the other guys. That's how they play the game. They get these guys compromised. They took him out to Lolita Island with Epstein and had him with an underage girl, and they're like, we own you now, Mr. Politician. You're in our back pocket.
Yeah.
We've got the video. So that's why he mysteriously was gone when they captured him. I mean, they don't want him talking, and nothing's going to come from that. There won't be any lawsuits. There's not going to be any lists found. They know how to shut it down.
It does seem to have shuffled away, because he did apparently commit suicide. It's all shut everybody up, isn't it? And they've not been able to take it any further, you know.
Yeah, but it'll go away. I mean, the jokes will go away after a while, you know.
So what about...
move on to something else. They got away with it.
We've got our Prince Andrew thing going on.
Oh, yeah. He's
which was linked to that. Well, I mean, he's in pretty deep doo-doo, I don't think, at the moment.
Yeah, he got caught, you know, got with his hand in the cookie jar for sure.
Yeah. I'm just waiting to see where that will go. But I think that, like everything else, that will just shuffle away and disappear, and
it'll just shuffle away.
Somebody will get paid off, and or somebody will commit suicide, or you know.
Yeah, we had the Pizzagate thing over here. I think there's a lot tied into that.
Sure, I believe that too.
These guys are into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is, and from what I've seen, I've never seen any of the pedophilia stuff or anything like that. I believe it happens for sure. But there is this non-part of the bloodline Illuminati group, which is what this book is about. But they're into this stuff. They're into the occult Kabbalah magic, the Jewish mysticism, the ritual magic, the names, they have certain names for things that hold a power.
Yeah, like code names.
That's esoteric knowledge that they know how to harness, or they're a part of. And that's just not shared with people that are part of the bloodline. So there's other people who are, just call them lower level members. They also have part of this esoteric knowledge that they're trying to use for their own gain. They have a new age philosophy where they are gods. That's what they believe. That's what the logo of the skull and bones means. It doesn't represent death to them. It's a play on the Bible. It actually means the opposite. It means we're only here temporarily, and then we will become a god.
Yeah.
It comes back to Genesis 3:22 in the Bible, and it says, then the majority once said, behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. To eat and live forever is what it means to them. I mean, they don't need to believe in God to become, go to heaven and live forever. They are already a God. This is just temporary till they ascend, die here and ascend to live forever. It's just, it's just spinning things on the Bible. They love to use the Bible against humanity because they know it better than, a lot of the people do. They dumb us down so much. Yeah. And they're just using it against us. So it's really sinister stuff, but it's going on.
It makes you wonder where it'll all end up, really. I mean, are we all going to be left? We won't be around. It's probably way beyond past our time. But where this world's actually going? Are we all going to be controlled one day? I don't know.
Absolutely, that's where they're taking us. I mean, look how things are. Look how different they are just from the 1960s.
Yeah.
In terms of morality and things like that. Now they just keep pushing the boundaries. How far are we going to go?
Well, everyone's
how far does it go?
Well, the way I see it, when you walk around the streets nowadays, you see everyone's glued to their telephones, aren't they? It's like a zombie.
Yeah, it's like a trance. It is. It's like something you put in trance. I mean, I was talking about the 5G networks here. It is. It's probably like some larger form of mind control.
That's another thing. That's supposed to be very dangerous, isn't it? From what I've understood. I mean, I don't fully understand it, but I understand it's supposed to be not good for the brainwaves.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't trust it. I have a friend that's into does a lot of things with this manages a lot of cell phone towers, like hundreds. And, he says there's nothing there, but maybe they got to him. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't trust it. He can.
You're going to get the differences within the cities. It's going to be, if you've got like 5G, it's going to be a lot different to if you're living in. I mean, I'm lucky. I live out in the countryside, so maybe it's not going to be quite so strong, but. But
you're thinking clearly.
But I don't think it's good news in the long run for everybody, but.
No, it can't be. Look at the youth. I mean, they're just glued to their devices. Yeah. I mean, they don't want to go outside anymore. They just want to be, planted into their, their YouTube or whatever. I saw something today. I mean, that's what you see these things every day that what's going on. But I saw this, I was uploading a new YouTube video and I saw this, I guess it was his advertisement for this YouTuber. His name is Juan Pazurita. This guy's got, I don't know what he does. I think he's in Spain or something, but he's got 10 million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah,
that is a lot. I mean, that's a staggering amount. And he had a segment with the YouTube CEO. Her name's Susan Wojcicki, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that right. And, he's interviewing her about, what it's like to be a YouTube content creator. And he's in his new little studio. I think it's in Los Angeles, but I think this guy's audience is mostly Spanish, but 10 million, that's a lot of subscribers. Yeah. But right behind the guy is a picture of a skull and bones. I mean, right behind him, which like the central shot of him talking to the CEO of YouTube. And that's the central piece behind this one YouTuber is a photograph of a skull and bones. I'm like, what? I mean, that's just not an accident. I mean, or he thought it was cool, or he's into pirates maybe. No. I mean, they have control of this stuff. They control social media. Yeah. Let's face it.
Yeah, it's when you see people with the eye as well, the all-seeing eye. You see a lot of
everywhere.
You do see it a lot everywhere. It's it's actually quite scary.
Yeah, especially in music. Yeah. I mean, the music industry is so pervasive. But yeah, there's something going on there. It isn't just a joke. Or back in my time, there was all the heavy metal bands and stuff, and you had Iron Maiden and things like that. Those guys played on those concepts, but they weren't really worshiping the devil. They really weren't. A lot of that was just selling albums. Maybe some of these other darker bands were. But not, that back then that was really, other than, backmasking Led Zeppelin records or something, or Jimmy Page being into Aleister Crowley and buying his mansion in Scotland. I mean, other than that, there's probably something going on there, but other than that, it was different. But now they really have control of the music.
I think that kind of progressed from the, psychedelic era, didn't it? It went into the heavy metal after that.
Yeah, it really did. But some of these other people that aren't, like metal anymore, like Ed Sheeran and stuff like that, and it's highly just really come out of nowhere, and they're just like, almost billionaires from the, there's just like, they had to make a deal somewhere.
Yeah.
To get to that level. I mean, they have control. Yeah. They really do. Yeah. They're in control. Yeah. And they're just gonna keep pushing their agenda to, and if they don't see it in their lifetime, I believe, I think they're just, as long as they, look at the politicians again, going back to that. You have the ones over here in America that are like, okay, Nancy Pelosi, I think she's in her late 70s. I'm like, what is she still doing this for? Yeah. All the money in the world. Wouldn't you just want to retire to your ranch or something and enjoy your grandkids? Yeah. No, they're still up here fighting the battles. Why? Yeah. It's like they're beholden to something.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's something beyond life, isn't there?
That's something beyond life. It was a deal they made. It's like, you can't leave. You can't quit. Well, why did I do it? Why, have all this money? Don't you want to go enjoy it?
Yeah.
You want to be up, fighting these battles in Washington, D.C. and the stress of it all in your 80s? I don't know. It's really odd.
Yeah. Well, how about you? As far as the music business went, I was a big Elvis fan, and
I'm a huge Elvis fan still.
I think things start changing when Elvis died. I know it was my imagination, but that's the way I saw it.
I think it did. I think people thought, he was kind of bad in some ways in their minds, but I don't. But it did after. That was real music. That was real talent.
Yeah.
He didn't have to sell it. He just had that kind of talent.
There's a lot of great music around nowadays, but things just seem to start changing drastically when he died. I don't know. I don't know if it was my imagination or not, but it's just my.
Yeah, that was when real music died. I think. That's the day that music died.
Yeah, it's strange, but. I don't know. Anyway, Drew, I think we'll draw a line over it now, but I hope people have found this interesting. I know we've gone off the rails a bit with politics and...
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
There are connections with the Illuminati and the paranormal. We're still involved in all that, so... it's a very deep subject, and like you say, you mentioned David Icke. I've met David Icke a few times as well, and... very fascinating person. I do suggest anyone interested in all that sort of stuff about the bloodlines really try and read some of his books, because they are quite fascinating.
Great stuff. A lot of videos. David's got a lot of good YouTube videos as well.
And also, talk about YouTube. You've got a YouTube site, haven't you, Drew?
Yeah, I do. You can search under my name. It says, Drew, D-R-E-W, Beeson, B-E-E-S-O-N. Hopefully I'll pull mine up. There's a little picture of me wearing a suit, so hopefully I stick out. But what I'll do. Got a lot of mysteries. I do a lot of true crime too. I just wrote a book about the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, those things like that are very interesting.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of American Jack the Ripper story, and, that's coming out hopefully in a week, so that'll hopefully open some eyebrows. I'm really trying to move that 50-year-old case.
Yeah, excellent.
Towards some form of conclusion is my goal, not just another speculation, but try to get it there. And then I do, D.B. Cooper mystery stuff like that. Yeah. And, some UFO stuff.
Well, what I'll do, I've got the Paranormal Dimensions page. I'll actually put all these links on there. And, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, have you got a communicate, like an email address or something they can get in touch with you for?
Yeah, it's just my name, Drew, D-R-E-W, Beeson, B-E-E-S-O-N, good English name, at yahoo.com.
Oh, right, an easy one, yeah. That's a good one. But as I say, I will put that on that link on the page. It's been great talking to you, Drew. Really enjoyed it.
You too, David. Really enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, thank you. Hope you'll come back again.
I will, for sure.
But anyway, out there, thank you again for Drew, and it's been great. Thanks, Drew. Right, okay, yeah, anyway, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions. I'm David Young. This is the Paranormal UK Radio Network, and thanks for listening, and tune in again next week. Thanks again, Drew. Bye-bye. Anyway, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Christmas and a safe Christmas, and don't drink too much, and speak to you next time.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.